Hello everyone, welcome to the Peppercorn Palette. My name is Julia, and in honor of St. Patrick's Day, today we are going to be making Irish brown bread. I was inspired to make this video by a trip that I took to Ireland a couple of years back where I had brown bread at so many different bars and restaurants, but particularly there was this one place in Cork County called Maryann's Bar and Restaurant that had the most delicious brown bread. I think they said that they won awards for it and stuff. It was known for being really good, and it was. And I actually was able to find the exact recipe online, which I'm so excited to share with you and share with you how I'm going to veganize it today. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, before we get started, I thought that we could have a little beverage while we bake. So I got some Guinness because Ireland. I don't think I've ever had Guinness from a can before. I can't imagine it being very good. There's something rattling in there, which is interesting. Let's read about it. Upon opening, the famous round plastic widget in every can unleashes nitrogen through the beer, creating the creamy head and iconic surge that's distinctively Guinness. To best enjoy, open the can and wait a moment for the nitrogen to release. Pour into a glass tilted at 45 degrees. Watch the surge and settle, and then enjoy. The surge. Wow. Okay. I'm really excited for the surge. Also, I know it feels wrong to pour a Guinness into anything but a Guinness pint glass, but I don't have one of those. But I do have a Stein that says Sam Adams on it, but we're just not going to look at that. And that's going to have to be good enough. All right, are we ready for the surge? Oh my God. Did you guys hear that? How long do I wait? Oh my God, it's bubbling. All right, ready? So it says at a 45-degree angle, we pour. Okay. Do we not wait long enough? Oh my God, there's no head. Wah wah. I mean, there's a little bit of one, I guess. Okay, well, let's launch it. It's not as bad as I thought it would be from a can, but okay. Let's get to baking. So before I get into the ingredients, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what Irish soda bread is. The bread that we're making today, the brown bread, it's a type of soda bread, but it's not the kind that you might be familiar with. I guess I'm more speaking for Americans. I'm not sure about other places in the world, but here in the States, you might be familiar with this round loaf soda bread that has the cross in the middle and dried fruit in it. That is different than the soda bread that we're making today. And I'll talk about the difference, but in Ireland, you see brown bread in every bar and restaurant, and I didn't see that the kind that I'm familiar with at all in Ireland. I'm not really sure why that is. I have an idea, but before we get into that, a little history on soda bread and how it kind of became popular. This is a very just general history. It was hard to find really clear history on it because what even is that? We will never really know 100% any part of history because we weren't there, right? But yeah, this was particularly unclear. What I got from it was that in around the 1830s in Ireland, they were going through some financial struggles, and the common and cheap wheat that was available was a soft wheat. And a soft wheat is essentially a wheat that has a lower protein content. And protein is important in bread making because it is how the gluten strands form. So it's kind of difficult to make a typical yeasted bread with a softer wheat. So it was discovered that if you mix baking soda and some sort of acid, it creates a chemical reaction and it can be used to leaven bread. It was a cheap, easy, and quick bread to make as well, because you didn't have to. There's no kneading involved. There's no like letting it rise. You just mix it and then pop it in the oven. So the main difference between the Irish soda bread with the dried fruit in it that I was talking about and the brown bread is the type of flour. Brown bread calls for a specific type of flour, which is stone ground whole wheat flour that is coarse specifically. Some recipes that I found of the other kind of soda bread, most recipes just called for all-purpose flour. And this kind of flour that you use for brown bread is really hard to find in the States. So that is probably why it's not popular here, although maybe you can't find this here because that bread's not popular. I don't know. I was actually able to find it in a store. There's this really cool store. If you live in New York City, you have to check this store out. It's in Little India. The name of it I don't know how to say, so I'm just gonna pop it up right here. But you have to go and check that store out. It's so cool. It has literally everything, like every ingredient for any recipe that you could possibly ever need. Like anything that you can't find in a regular grocery store, they probably have there. If you aren't able to find this in the store, I will link down below places that you can order it. Like I said, this recipe became popular because it was quick, cheap, and easy. The original recipe only called for 4 ingredients, which was flour, salt, baking soda, and then some sort of acid to react with the baking soda, which was typically sour milk, which was another component of this recipe that made it really cheap and was also kind of a win-win for the distributors of milk as well as the consumer, because now the distributors could market their sour milk, whereas they would just throw it out before. Now they can market it to be used in brown bread and sell it at a lower price, and then it's great for the consumer because it's another cheap ingredient. Obviously, as recipes do, they evolve over time, and the recipe that we are using, Maryann's recipe, is a few more ingredients. I will link Maryann's recipe down below. I'll also have my full veganized written recipe in the description. So I mentioned that in the original recipe, the popular milk to use was sour milk, and that later evolved into buttermilk because people probably realized it's probably not the best thing to be drinking sour milk. So I'm going to teach you how to make your own vegan buttermilk. Maryann's recipe calls for 2 cups of buttermilk. You can take any non-dairy milk of your choice. I'm using this oat milk. And we're gonna pour it into this bowl. All right, and then to our milk, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. This is going to cause the milk to curdle and mimic buttermilk. And the acid in the vinegar is what is going to react with the baking soda and leaven our bread. Okay, so now we are going to mix all the dry ingredients. So we're going to start off with our flour. So it is 4 cups of flour, or 450 grams, or a pound, which, wait, this whole thing is a pound. So I'm just going to use this whole bag. The measurements for the other dry ingredients are kind of confusing. Okay, to make it simple, I'm just going to do a tablespoon of all the other dry ingredients. So we have wheat bran, and then we're also going to do a tablespoon of wheat germ, and a tablespoon of steel oats. And it also calls for a teaspoon of salt. Oops. Oh, I forgot to mention the first step is you're supposed to preheat your oven to 450. Okay, now you're just gonna stir all your dry ingredients. Oh, I forgot the star of the show, the baking soda. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Once you've thoroughly mixed your dry ingredients, we're going to mix the wet ingredients. So that to the side. It says 1 tablespoon of oil, but it doesn't say what kind of oil, so I'm just gonna use olive oil. I feel like a more neutral oil might be better, but I love olive oil, so. So the next ingredient is an egg. So to veganize that, today I'm gonna use this egg replacement powder. So this says for 1 egg, use 1 tablespoon of the powder and 2 tablespoons of water. Okay, so the next ingredient is actually sugar. When I was looking at different recipes online, I saw that most of them have some sort of sweetener in them. Some have honey, some have molasses, and I even saw a few that had this called black treacle. It's described as essentially a type of molasses, but it's a little bit sweeter and less bitter. I wasn't originally going to get this, but when I was in the fancy store getting the flour, it was like right near the flour, and I thought it was just meant to be. So I decided to pick it up, and I thought it would be fun to put in the recipe instead of sugar. It's like so weird. It's in a paint can. Whoa. It's so sticky. And we're just gonna stir all the wet ingredients together. Okay, once you have mixed your wet ingredients, all you're gonna do is throw it into the dry. And we're gonna mix it all up. But now we're just gonna put it into our pan. So we're using a loaf pan, and I'm just going to grease it with some vegan butter. Now that our pan is greased, I'm just going to put the dough in the pan. Bloop, bloop. Now this is going to go into our 450-degree oven for 1 hour. So it is the next day. I baked the cake last night for actually 45 minutes. At the bottom of the recipe, it actually said that an hour is too long, and that was definitely true for me. It got very brown at 45 minutes, so I took it out of the oven, and I wanted to let it cool completely before slicing into it, because when you slice into bread, when it's still hot, the steam escapes and then it can dry out your bread faster. So I wanted to let it cool completely, and then it just got late. The Guinness hit me and I was tired and I went to bed. So I've cut into it and I think it looks pretty good. Honestly, when I saw it rising this much in the oven, I got so excited. I don't know why that's what's supposed to happen, but it was just exciting. Like, wow, science works. I think I'll try it now, and then I think I want to heat it up and add some butter to it because I think it'll be better like that. But let's just try it as is. Well, that really takes me back to Ireland. I'm going to heat up the rest of this piece though and try it with some butter and maybe a little jam as well. Okay, we buttered and jammed it. Let's try. It's so nice because it's so hearty. I love all the different textures going on and how dense it is. Like, you could have this as a meal on its own, and it has so many nutritious things in it too. So I can see why it was so popular during that time in Ireland. Well, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any other traditional recipes, maybe from your culture, that you'd like to see me try and veganize, please let me know in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video. And until next time, bye.